Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday, September 2nd, 2025 meeting of the Candy Ojai County Board of Commissioners. Please stand for the pledge. I want to welcome everybody who's in the board chambers this morning, as well as those folks joining us on YouTube. Before we go to the approval of the agenda, we have one resolution to add to this, and this is in regard to a victim services grant that the county attorney will tell us about. This is something that happens every year. It's an annual grant. And we're going to, with the approval of the board, add that after the ORAC grant update. Does anyone, with that addition, does anyone wish to move approval of the agenda?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Emdek moves. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Berg seconds. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. And then we would move to the consent agenda, consisting today of 3 items: approval of the August 19th, 2025 County Board legal minutes, the approval of the auditor's warrants and claims, paying the bills, and approval of a liquor license application. Does anyone wish to pull any items from the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, I see what's a minor error on the application, but I don't know if that is, it says the nearest municipality on sale license is Wilmer. It would be New London, I think.
And so are you requesting to pull this?
Well, I don't know if we can approve it as it is or if we have to have a correction and then.
Well, let's,
I
go
would
ahead.
defer to Shane.
Why don't we pull it off and put it at the very end, and then we'll give him a chance to take a look at it.
All right. So there, Commissioner Emdek is pulling the liquor license application, and we will take that immediately after the victim services grant. All right, then let's get approval of the remaining items on the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. And do we need a motion to approve the amended agenda then? Or are we already past that? All right. Very good then. So we will add that at the very end. That's an add. All right. At this time then, we will have a presentation from our new insurance broker, USI broker introduction. And John, please come up to the microphone and tell us who you are and who you're with, and let us begin.
Good morning. Thanks for having me in today. My name is Jonathan Sitch. I'm a benefits consultant with USI Insurance Services. And today I'll be giving a presentation about our tools and resources that we'll be making available to the county. I'll also be answering any questions that you have.
There we go.
Okay, so real briefly, overall about our company, we have offices in just about every major city in the United States. Myself and my team work out of Bloomington, Minnesota, and the majority of services that the county will be receiving are originated out of Bloomington, Minnesota. We have all the local expertise and the relationships with all the insurance carriers that do business in this marketplace but we're also able to harvest data from around the country. That is important because there will be quite a few public sector business within our book of business. And if the county is ever facing an issue, rather than us saying, hey, let's try this or let's look at this idea, I can actually go into our system and find other counties, cities, school districts, anybody that has a similar dynamic, and do research about any of the issues that we're having and finding a solution. So there's a lot of data that we use in our consulting practices to the county moving forward. We're a full-service agency. That means that we provide all services that have to do with underwriting and analytics, compliance, population health, HR services, and then we branch into some other areas where it's more on an a la carte basis. It's totally up to your team if they're gonna use us in these full capacities or not. But retirement plan consulting, ancillary benefits, pharmacy consulting, and care intervention. I'll be talking a little bit more about that today. The number one tool that we'll be deploying for the county has to do with underwriting and analytics. So we believe strongly that having an independent opinion about underwriting is important because we want to make sure that your health insurance carrier is treating you fair. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes in determining what you actually pay for a rate, and that all trickles down to keeping your plan designs viable, keeping your payroll deductions as low as possible, keeping the aggregate cost down. So having an independent underwriting opinion is your best tool in negotiating with insurance companies. And we've actually hired underwriters that used to work at insurance carriers, and they work with us on our teams, and we basically form that underwriting opinion. And then we're able to negotiate with your insurance companies and come up with what we would all agree is fair. But we do more than just negotiations. There's also renewal projections that we give. So we have a system where we download all your claims data. Of course, it's HIPAA protected, but we're able to underwrite and project what your renewals are gonna come in at, meaning we're giving your finance team advance notice for budget planning. We can also do claims cost and risk assessments, trend mitigation, plan design, and contribution analysis. And this is very important. As you know, there's different plan designs that you can offer your employees and different contributions that need to be made into the health plan itself. Making sure that those plan designs are funded correctly and you got the right contribution. Make sure that your plan does not build a deficit. A deficit is what causes larger or more steep increases in the future. And then we can also do predictive modeling. So if we're ever looking at making any changes, we have the capability to tell you if you made that change a year ago, what would have happened. So it feels maybe a little bit like Monday morning quarterback, but that can be a really useful tool to know if it's the right step moving forward or not. We have the ability to look at different types of funding for your health plan. So there's many ways to fund a health plan depending on the risk level that you want to take on. This could be self-insurance. This could be a term called level funded. This could be fully insured. There's a number of different risk models or funding platforms that you can take on. Rather than going to an insurance company and saying, hey, give us a quote on this, we can actually do that underwriting and that funding analysis for you before reaching out to an insurance company and asking them to make an offer. Comprehensive underwriting review. We know that in a plan design, such as what the county has, There's a number of levers within a renewal calculation that they give you at the end of the year, which we may think could be fair or unfair. We have the ability to unbundle those calculations and underwrite it ourselves and make sure that the underwriting is appropriate or what we agree with. Underwriting calculations can change each year, as does your risk profile. So once again, having an independent opinion of what that calculation is and negotiating with an underwriter based on that independent opinion is more scientific, it's more logic, and it's quite often how to get the best results rather than going back and threatening to leave, bid or quote, go out to market, et cetera. This type of conversation and negotiation bears more fruit. If we were ever to go self-insured, which by the way, many groups in Minnesota are migrating to that type of platform, it's becoming more and more prevalent. We also have the ability to do stop-loss benchmarking, and this is basically another underwriting calculation that gives us the ability to say how much risk are you going to take on per claimant. So we have all the data necessary to make sure that if the county was ever to go in a direction and take on a different risk or go self-insured, we would set that ceiling of risk correctly so that we would not be taking on any unanticipated or unnecessary risk. By the way, going self-insured quite often can produce more efficiencies with your health plans where you're paying less taxes. And then on the months where you're performing better, you reap the benefit of that. So we haven't gone into the level of detail of our relationship yet where this analysis has been completed. We're new together, but this will be some of the items that we'll be performing over the next couple months. We also do quarterly claims review. So we schedule quarterly meetings with your staff and we review the claims. This is critical in our opinion because your claims coming in are always a fluid type of situation. And there's a lot of ways that we can impact claims. But in order to understand what your cost drivers are, we first need to know what's going on with your claims and what's moving the needle there. So we have a proprietary software system called 3D where we get direct feed claims right down to the ISD-10 codes with your group. Once again, all this data is protected for privacy, but with that direct feed, we're able to model your claims and know exactly what's going on with your risk profile. Without having the software, groups can feel like they're somewhat handcuffed because they only receive claims data from the insurance carrier. Insurance carriers, although are trying to be as transparent as possible, the claims data that comes from them is usually insufficient or doesn't tell the right story. So we just want the whole story. We want as much transparency as possible. This 3D system will be a very valuable tool for the county when monitoring their health plan and making decisions about the health plan moving forward. Plan design modeling, we have the capability to look at your plan designs and tell you how they're performing. We understand that there's collective bargaining agreements in place and a lot of efforts that the county has to recruit and retain the best employees, but we also want to make sure that the plan designs are adhering to those collective bargaining agreements, but also contributing to recruiting and retaining efforts. A plan design left unchecked can become inefficient and can grow problematic over time. So we want to make sure that plan designs are meeting the needs of our families as well as performing financially. But we're, as you can see by the actuarial value calculator at the bottom of that slide there, we can gauge the performance of each one of your plan designs and making sure that they're following your intent. We have a number of HR services, so we like to think of ourselves as an extension of your HR office. So we have dedicated account management. We produce a service calendar. I'll go in a little bit more detail about that. We help our clients vet various HR technologies. But if you look at the pie graph there, when it comes to education, negotiation of technology credits, finding new technologies, claims advocacy, we want to support your HR department to the fullest. So there's a number of services that my agency will offer to your HR department just to make sure that they're hitting on all cylinders, so to speak. And you got a great HR department here, staffed with great people, so we're looking forward to that. We benchmark your benefit plans. So we get our benchmarking data directly from our system. It doesn't come from surveys. We don't buy it from third parties. We have a very, very large book of business, and all the data comes directly from that system. And we're able to tell you if your plan designs, your payroll deductions, your overall value of benefits is hitting the mark. And what I mean by that is that over time, left unchecked, plan designs and employee benefits can become undesirable, or maybe they're not contributing to your recruiting and retaining efforts. It's very difficult for an organization to measure where they should be with payroll deductions, plan designs, et cetera, to make sure that indeed they're meeting their recruiting and retaining efforts. So every year we'll produce a benchmarking report, and we'll be able to tell you what percentile that you fall into. And it also depends on what your philosophy is. You may want to be a market leader and offer the best benefits. You may inform us that we have the best compensation, so we want our benefits to be middle of the pack. It just depends on what your philosophy is, but benchmarking will be ultimately how you keep your benefit structure, your payroll deductions and whatnot, in line once again with what your intent and philosophy is. All the employees here will have access to what's called a benefit resource center. And this is a service that we provide because navigating the world of health insurance and healthcare is difficult today. There's a number of aspects of the system, quote unquote, that are difficult for people to navigate when they have a health issue. So our Benefit Resource Center will ensure that if an employee has any type of situation, it could be very simple, it could be very complicated, where they can reach out to us and we're gonna help them through the issue so they don't have to contact multiple insurance companies. A simple example of that would be an employee comes and says, I just found out I'm pregnant. Do I have short-term disability? Do I have maternity leave? How do I find an in-network doctor? You know, maybe they have 5 or 6 questions regarding this upcoming event. If they contact our Benefit Resource Center, they can do it by email or phone call. They'll just get one person that will help them through that event from start to finish, and they'll give them all the answers pertaining to their employee benefits. But we also handle much more complicated situations. Just recently, we were contacted by another client of mine that had an employee that was denied a drug. It was an injection and it's time sensitive. And they went to the HR department and they said, you know, I think this is discrimination and I don't think this is fair and I'm very upset about it. After contacting our Benefit Resource Center, the Benefit Resource Center worked with the doctor and the insurance company to make sure that the paperwork was filled out correctly and submitted correctly to the insurance company. The drug was approved and the employee was quite happy with the results. So sometimes it's just a matter of getting folks to communicate or fill out paperwork correctly. By the way, each year we also deliver a report saying how many people contacted the Benefit Resource Center and for what reason. And we'll deliver that report to you, and that will help you keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on. If you have an uptick in calls regarding leave or some other type of issue, we can report that to you. Your HR department will know that that's going on, and they may tailor some of their communications or policies regarding those inquiries. We also provide a vast array of different employee benefits communication and education to employees. This could be something as simple as benefit guides, but we also do open enrollment memos, email templates. We do presentations. That's probably the most popular thing that I'm doing right now. It's called a Brain Shark. It's a presentation with a voiceover. And this is very valuable to get spouses involved. Quite often, spouses are the decision maker in the household when it comes to employee benefits, and they may not come to an actual meeting. They may not look through the benefit guide, but they love these presentations because they're able to go right to the slide that has the important subject for them, and they can view it as many times as they want at their leisure. We also provide what's called Flint videos. These are 2 or 3 minute videos that help people understand the basic of their employee benefits. An example would be, what is a health savings account? How does it work? You know, who's eligible to be on it? It's quick and easy information. But we can also customize things and work with your HR department to make sure that you have indeed a benefits communication strategy and not just something that we're obligated to do during open enrollment period. Not to say that that's what you're doing, but we would have a meeting with your HR department to tailor your communication strategy, your education strategy to employees. And as a result of that communication strategy, we find that employees are more satisfied with benefits and they utilize them to the fullest of their capability, which is our intent. We'll put together an annual service calendar with your HR team, and this is how they know what is going to happen throughout the year. So the different items that go on the service calendar might be related to compliance. It might be related to population health. It could be related to when we do open enrollment. It's a working document that can change throughout the year, but at the beginning of the year, we complete this document. It helps us all be on the same page and proactive. If there's a law change that's coming up, there's a big one here in Minnesota, PFML, as you know. So that would be an example of what would go on a service calendar so that everybody can prepare for it and make sure that the processes and policies are put into place by the time that that law takes effect. But we have law changes on a regular basis impacting employee benefits, including the big beautiful bill recently that had 3 provisions in there regarding employee benefits. So this document is a very important component of our planning structure. One thing that was important about bonding our relationship was our capabilities about population health management. So we have a team of locally based, nationally networked wellness consultants that your team is going to have access to. They also have data, and our wellness consultants are also data experts that will comb through your data and pinpoint what you want to address. So common conditions or sometimes folks not using their benefits to get diagnosed early would be examples of how they can help. So it's developed quite a bit over my career. When I first started my career about 20 years ago, population health had a lot to do with, moving, getting your body moving and doing things that were healthy, and it was done for good culture, and it was well received by employees. But it was very difficult to measure return of investment or know what type of impact you are having to employees' health or your claims, which ultimately impact your overall cost. Population health has evolved nowadays into something that's very strategic and data-driven. So that's something that we'll be bringing to your group. We'll be able to tell you, what to expect over the next 5 years. And we're gonna bring a data set not only specific to your group, but once again, we can use nationwide data or statewide data to let you know what the trends are for various cancers, diabetes, the various future diagnosis that we should be addressing. And, this might be putting the cart before the horse just a little bit, but I wanted to give you an example of population health management and something that I speculate would be suggested in here, one form or another. But a lot of employers want to know what they can do to control costs in the future. And your costs are driven by your claims. Your claims are driven by the health of your employees. And when we pull data on groups like the county here, we often find that a very large percentage of your population is not using the doctor at all. So your employee benefits have coverage for various cancer screenings, depending on your age and gender. And there's also other benefits to get a free physical, but we're gonna find out that a big block of people are just not using that at all. And we want people to use those benefits. We want them to get the full value of their benefits. And we also know that when somebody is diagnosed with like prostate, breast cancer, colon cancer, skin cancer, those frequent diagnoses that we see, that if they're diagnosed at stage 1, there's a 95% chance of survival, but if you're diagnosed at stage 4, that can drop below 50%. There's also a financial impact to that. An example would be prostate cancer caught in stage 1, could be a couple $100,000. In stage 4, it can be significantly higher than that. So the purpose of a program like this is long-term thinking about employee health as well as keeping our overall costs down. We'll also use population health for targeted disease management. We can get much more specific than the physician engagement that I just mentioned. And once we go through your data, we can look at type 2 diabetes, other conditions like that we know are a big influence of the rising cost of health insurance nowadays, which is at a steeper clip than in years past. And that has to do with our aging society, the health of our society, the types of diseases that we have, et cetera. And so getting back to our predictive modeling with our data, so we use that 3D data analytics system to draft up a health risk score and key future cost drivers, and then we create targeted wellness programs and incentives. The reason I wanted to mention incentives is because the most proven way to change behavior is for there to be an incentive. So not only are we gonna diagnose what your cost drivers are, but we're gonna have data that is going to tell you what incentives that you wanna offer employees to enroll in the programs or take advantage of disease management or just get involved overall. Various incentives will induce different utilization rates. And the success of our program is solely based on utilization rates. It's the linchpin of success. So we want to make sure that we have the right incentives to our employees to participate in these programs. I mentioned type 2 diabetes already. The other thing that we offer is compliance management. So we have a staff of compliance attorneys at USI, and your HR department and other departments will have full access to those attorneys for any of their compliance needs. So they'll be able to email or talk with them directly or go through me and get involved in various projects to make sure that we're complying with everything that we need to do as it pertains to health insurance carriers, state law, federal law, et cetera. We also do a compliance checklist review. So this is a very deep dive into all aspects of your employee benefits. This is performed by an attorney. No organization is 100% perfect, but a good start of our relationship is to go through this checklist and just make sure that everything is being addressed. If we find anything that we need to address, we usually have a philosophy of got to do it right now, or we got to do it upon the renewal, or this is something long-term that we're going to need to address. But there's a lot of different laws. Affordable Care Act was the big one in 2010 that governed what we can do with employee benefits, so compliance is more and more important. I mentioned this before, but anytime that there's a new law or regulation that we need to conform to, we will reach out to you. So besides our compliance attorneys, we also have employment law attorneys on staff. We monitor all laws that impact our clients, and we will reach out to your staff with any laws that will impact anything that needs to be done in the HR or employee benefits realm. And then we also have the ability to do care intervention or bringing other resources to your employees depending on what those needs are. So I've brought direct primary care, network navigation tools, and other various tools and resources to my clients to make sure that their employees have the best experience when they're using healthcare, but at the same time, maximize efficiency. And sometimes this means finding the best practicing doctor for whatever condition that you have. We also do pharmacy consulting. The pharmacy is in the news quite a bit nowadays. We know that pharmacy is very, very complicated for the average citizen to navigate. So we provide a lot of tools and resources that will take some of that responsibility off of their hands and give them more turnkey solutions, but also for our clients understanding what you're actually spending on drugs and whether or not you know what you're spending. Because in the health insurance world, there's embedded contracts that don't do a really good job of being transparent so that you know that indeed you're getting the best deal on the drug market. So we provide all the analytics to help you understand where an insurance company's profit is coming from pertaining to drugs. And we have a pharmacist on staff. His name's Keith Weaver. He looks through the various prescriptions that are prescribed to our employees and their families, and we also go through and look at your contracts. And if we find anything about your contract that is an opportunity or something that we can suggest to reduce the cost of drugs or health insurance with our clients, we'll do that. It's common practice for us to do a pharmacy contract analysis for all of our clients. So that will be something we'll perform in the near future. All right, thank you. I know I went through that with pretty swift cadence. Any questions that I can answer?
John, first of all, thank you, and we wanted to make sure that you had plenty of time to go through all of this. First of all, welcome. We appreciate the having you on board to help us. If we were to summarize what you said, basically this is you're offering strategic, data-driven, and high-engagement services that are hopefully going to mitigate our costs.
That is correct.
Would be fair? All
Yes.
right. Are there any questions for John? Commissioner Imdek.
Actually, I have two. You mentioned benefits versus pay for recruits. In your experience, new recruits, especially the younger ones, Do they respond more to the pay or do they respond more to the benefits?
Great question. I think my personal opinion and based on the feedback that I get from a lot of my clients, folks that are in those younger age brackets put more attention on compensation than they do benefits. As they start families and get a little bit older, more value is placed on benefits at that time.
Not surprised by that answer, to be honest. And then the other question is, does the Benefit Resource Center, and I'm using myself as a bad example, is that reduce staff time? Because I usually go into our HR or benefits administrator and say, just give me the best plan that you've got. So does this put it on the client?
Yeah, first of all, there's nothing wrong with that type of question for HR because our HR people give excellent guidance, but you're absolutely right. The Benefit Resource Center will take hopefully a lot of work off the shoulders of your staff. Because quite often, some of these situations are so complicated that your staff could take a half a day or a couple weeks to get an answer if it's complicated. Having somebody work on that behind the scenes and then deliver you an answer can be very valuable with time management.
Any other question? Commissioner Burke?
Mr. Chair, thank you. Just a quick question. How many other counties in Minnesota do you work with?
Yeah, I'll have to shoot from the hip
Just-
on this
just
one.
roughly, yeah, I mean-
Yeah, in Minnesota, I would say 15, maybe more. I know that when we first were going through the vetting process, I might have
Yeah,
produced the
I wasn't
list, but I
looking for
forget
an
the number.
exact
Yeah.
number, but
Yeah.
just seeing what you got experience in
Yeah.
dealing with government and so forth. Certainly it sounds
Right.
like you do, and it certainly sounds like an expanded service is what we've been used to. So, Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for John today?
I just got one.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson.
So you talked about self-insuring, counties going that route. We're kind of a tipping point is what I was told. And so if we did go that way, what would be a disadvantage? I mean, sometimes you get a large claim and that would scare me, because you got a little uncertainty there. But do you have any more thoughts about self-insuring or?
Yeah, so more of my clients have moved self-insured in the last couple of years than the previous 10. And it's because self-insurance gives you more ability to customize your benefits, and it also lends to transparency, which contributes to better decisions. It's kind of a chain effect there. But if you can't get the right protection or stop loss, and your claims are not conducive to the success of a self-insured program, we'll be able to perform the analytics and tell you that. But we'll also be able to tell you if indeed you should be looking in that direction, and here's how you design a program. Quite often, I've been contacted by other employers that will tell me, hey, we went through a process to see if we should go self-insured or not. And I'll dig into it. And they were delivered a spreadsheet with a quote on it. And in my opinion, that's not best practices for establishing whether you should go self-insured or not. You should actually dig into your claims, do the stop-loss benchmarking reports, negotiate fixed rates, negotiate that pharmacy contract, which is a very large piece of the pie when determining your self-insured risk. You should go through that analysis first and then look to see if your partner carriers, networks, et cetera, can accommodate that structure. So I believe peeling apart everything and designing the right program, and then going through the process of vetting who's the appropriate third-party administrator, network, et cetera, is the best practices for establishing that. I plan on doing that for you. It's not always predictable that the results will come back better than the incumbent situation. And what will happen though is we'll be able to establish whether the pool that you're in right now is subsidizing you or if you're subsidizing others. And that will be a big determining factor of whether self-insurance is right. If a pool is willing to subsidize us when we're having our rougher years, our high claim years, and we're still getting a fair overall rate or cost for doing that, my advice would be to stay in that situation as long as it's meeting our needs. But looking at self-insurance will be a review that we probably do every 2 years, depending on what happens with your risk profile.
So you probably, I'm looking at it now, you kind of use it as a form of leverage when you're negotiating with insurance companies, possibly, because you
yeah,
can
it
kind of
can.
double check their math in a way.
I think that's accurate statement because knowledge is power and the more information you have, the better your negotiations go. Negotiating insurance is not like a plain poker, it's more like an open book, like, hey, here's material facts and here's what's really going on. Unfortunately, the members or clients don't always get a lot of great information and the insurance company has all the information. So we feel from that position, it's not always the fairest negotiation.
Like with
But-
me,
Yeah.
when someone talks to me about insurance, my eyes glaze over really quick and it's like,
Yeah.
just get over with this.
Right, yeah. Not the funnest subject in the world, but going through these various analytics, like I believe you're stating, exposes a lot of details. And we'll find the details that are in our favor and see if we can find solutions because of the new information we're getting.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment. Yes, it's a very complicated process, and maybe, I think it's very interesting to look at that and explore that possibility. So that we look at every way we can save some dollars and provide the best care. But, you know, going back to being self-insured too, and I know there's always a concern about the big bills we could possibly get, but you get risk insurance, and that's where you would come in to help us with that, you know, at a certain threshold, then we have to pay for this insurance, that would protect us for that, except that can get very spendy, and that's where we would need your help for, to see how this all would fit together.
Right, so with our independent underwriting, we would advise you on how to budget for your rates, and we would also put together that stop-loss insurance that would give you
Stop-loss, that's the word I was looking
Right.
for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that gives you your maximum liability. So that would be a scenario very similar to kind of what you have today. It's you have a similar situation like that today and you're budgeting at the max already. But you're right, self-insurance you have the ability to cap your risk at various levels, and we advise our clients on
Yeah.
where that good spot is. Yeah.
All right, any last questions for John? John, thank you for being here
thank
today.
you.
I did also want to thank Administrator Baker and our HR and benefits team for going through this process. And clearly, your firm has a considerable bandwidth and a lot more to bring to the table that we're looking forward to finding out where this takes us. So
Me too, thank you.
thank you so much.
Okay.
At this time, we'll ask, oh, I'm sorry, I was looking one too far ahead. At this time, we'll consider approving the appointments for the new auditor treasurer. Administrator Baker will present. And this in regards to two resolutions, 2025-28 and 2025-29.
Kelsey Baker, Candy, Ohio County Administrator. Before you today, as the chair stated, I have two resolutions to appoint Lisa Weiss, our new auditor treasurer, for the deputy registrar for Department of Motor Vehicles, and then for all of the signatory duties. Previously, the board passed a resolution for signatory duties for our chief financial officer, Karen Anderson, and myself. And so now we will just be adding to that list. So the first resolution before you today is 2025-28, and this is for the deputy registrar, and that we have to have this submitted, but it will be effective, as stated in the resolution, for September 15th, 2025. We can only have two names. Our current name is our licensing supervisor, Vanessa Grunseth, and so this would be adding Lisa as our second deputy registrar for Candioi County.
Mr. Chair, I move on Resolution 2025-28.
We have a motion to move on the resolution. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. And one more.
Yep, so this is Resolution 2025-29. Like I stated before, this is to add Lisa Weiss to all of our signatory duties, authorizing her to do so. We will, effective September 15th as her official start date. Like I said earlier, we still have Karen Anderson and myself on there. We will leave that on there for a while, and I'm just looking into that. If we need to remove that, we would probably have to bring another resolution forward. But for right now, we'll still add Lisa on there, or we'll add her on there and leave Karen and I as well for right now and for the time being.
We have Resolution 2025-29. Would anyone like to move the resolution?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, to pass Resolution 2025-29.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Dale Anderson seconds. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. And now we have Public Works Director Mel Odens, and this is a final payment and acceptance request.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, relatively simple resolution, or final payment request for you. Every year we do crack filling. This year we did 54 miles of crack filling, 406,000 linear feet. It is a maintenance road item that we do every year. We do crack filling and seal coating. This is our first final for the year, so we feel good about that. So Northwest Asphalt and Maintenance of Thief River Falls did a very good job for us. And so it's my recommendation to accept the project and authorize final payment in the amount of $21,315 and no cents, and that represents the final retainage that we do on any contract.
You've heard the request of the director. Is there a motion?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion and a second to approve the request. All those in favor, discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes, and we will take a 10-minute recess. The Candy Ohio County Board of Commissioners is back in from recess, and at this time, we will have a informational item in regards to a slow/no wake ordinance update. Administrator Baker.
Good morning, Kelsey Baker, Candy Ohio County Administrator. Before you today, as the chair stated, was the slow no wake ordinance update. This has been a major discussion this summer with all of the rain that we've received in Candy Ohio County. And so I recruited Austin Hillenbrands, our drainage inspector, to help me with this ordinance and get the numbers. And so kind of what we're gonna present today is in draft form. Nothing is set in stone. We want to hear your feedback. The public hearing isn't set in stone for October 7th. That was just for Austin and I kind of planning ahead on if this were to be, okay, good to go, head nods, then we would do the posting in the public, or do the public notices and then come back with the public comment and the public hearing. After talking with some commissioners, we're not there yet, and that's okay. We have time. We're kind of nearing the end of the lake season now, and so we want to get this in place prior to 2026 lake season. But we also want to make sure that we're listening to the constituents and reviewing this document to the best of our ability. But part of this is to provide public safety, protect our property and our land shore, and to ensure the enjoyment and continuation of that with all of our lakes in Candy Ohio County. So we've had high water in Candy Ohio County, and we, in past, have never had an ordinance around this. And it's always been a little bit of a gray area on who issues something like this, who doesn't. And so in talking with the county attorney, the county sheriff, we all feel that it would be in the best of Candy Ohio County's ability to create an ordinance like this moving forward so that we do know where the levels are at, we know the numbers, and so that it's not, we're meeting the needs of our constituents and ensuring property and shoreline safety within all our lakes. Sorry, I just closed this. And so how we came up with this, there are other counties that have a no wake ordinance in place. And so what we kind of did was we started researching a lot of the counties that have that in place. What's the language in their ordinance? What does it entail? Does it entail all the lakes, just the lakes? Some county ordinances only include the channels. If there are a lot of lakes and there's a lot of channels in between lakes, some counties just include the channels. We kind of went back and forth. We started with the county parks. After hearing some of the concerns, we would probably include more lakes, if not maybe all of the incorporated listed lakes. That's something that we can look into. Currently, the designated lakes within the ordinance are Big Candy Ohio, Diamond Lake, Games Lake, which include Norway and West Norway, and then Green Lake. Some of the comments that I've heard since issuing this would be, would we include Lake Andrew? How about Lake Florida? And so those are two lakes that we can include. You know, the biggest question then is, do we include Elkhorn? Things like that. And so it's, you know, hearing from you and listening to your constituents on, do we want to include all incorporated listed lakes? What's the feedback that you're hearing? And so that's something that Austin and I can go into a little bit further and talk about some of those things. We would also like to maybe share with the lake associations on what's your feedback. Is this something that meets these needs? That would be something that we can explore. This also is a step process with the Minnesota DNR. So prior to leading up to this, I did have a call with the DNR rep as well, and the DNR also needs to sign off on the ordinance along with the county board. So there's a little bit of a step process with this as well, that it's, they also have to review and approve. There also is, I'll go into the elevation and the 150 feet from shore in a little bit. But prior, I just want to review kind of the enforcement, and this allows under Section 7, it states the primary responsibility for enforcement of this ordinance shall rest with Candy Ohio County Sheriff's Office, other licensed peace officers, including conservation officers, Minnesota Department of Natural Resources, and not authorized to enforce the provisions of this ordinance. And I think that meets kind of what the county sheriff's concerns were, is the enforcement level of this. And so by having some of that language in there follows the statutory language and provides some reassurance for our staff and shows guidance for the taxpayers as well as what would be listed within this ordinance. Going back up to the designated lakes, we did 150 feet from shoreline during the high water events. This is something that also could be changed. You know, we could look at 150, we could look at 300, we could look at 500 or 600 would be more of the common, the numbers that would be used. I put in 150 feet. That's what our resolution stated earlier this summer. Some of the conversations I've had just previously is maybe we should up that to 300 feet based off the boats that are being used on the lakes in this time. So that's also, I've made that note. That's something that I can change when I bring back the draft. And coming up with the water levels, I'm gonna hand it over to Austin here in just a little bit. But coming up with these water levels, we do get this information off the DNR website based off these charts, and like I said, Austin will go over some of this stuff. But based off these charts, Austin and I sat down. I am kind of a lake girl in Candiotay County. I've been on quite a few lakes, you know, and so kind of gauging like where that high water level is. And if we feel that that elevation is still too high, let's lower that number. And so Austin and I kind of figured out where these elevation numbers are. And so if that's a concern for you and you want to be more involved in that, we can absolutely do so. But that is how we got to those numbers. So I'll pass it over to Austin so he can explain a little bit more of that.
Morning, Mr. Chair, board members, Austin Hilbrance, Drainage Manager. So yeah, I helped Kelsey with these graphs. These graphs that are in your packet are actually the county elevation shots of the lake levels. I got the orange line is your outlet elevation. So that's what the lake should go down to, you know, during low water. Got that from the DNR. Like Kelsey was saying, we selected these levels that we set for these wake restrictions, but they're also kind of based on, we got the ordinary high water level marks from the DNR. So that's gonna be the water level that shows on the landscape, you know, like trees that the lake consistently goes to, according to the DNR. And then, you know, that public water, that level is where you can't do work in the public water basin without getting a permit and all that. But anyway, those ordinary high water levels, though, we found that the lake consistently went above that. And so based on that, that's where we ended up setting these wake restriction levels. So if you want, I can go through each one, or.
Yeah, why don't you take a couple minutes and do that?
Okay.
That'd be great.
Okay, so for like Big Candy High Lake, you know, the ordinary high water level set by the DNR is 1103.2. And we set the wake restriction level at 1104, just because the lake consistently goes above that, you know, and we based it on the high water levels that we had this year. So that's where we ended up setting it. Like Kelsey said, you know, these numbers aren't set in stone. We can move these, but we wanted to make sure that, you know, that we protect property, but still allow recreation out on the lake. So the next one we can go to be like Diamond Lake. We set the lake restriction level at 1173.5. The ordinary high water level is 1172.90. So again, if you look at the graph, that lake consistently goes above that. We set the wake restriction above that to, you know, to make sure that recreation can still happen, but make sure during really high waters, especially this year, you know, that we protect personal property. If you go to Games in Norway Lake, the wake restriction level is set at 1198.0. The ordinary high water level from the DNR is 1197.7. So we set that a little bit higher because, again, the lake consistently goes to that level. And the DNR also referenced that when I got these got the ordinary high water levels. You know, the hydrologist, the area hydrologist, did point out that even in her hydrographs, or these graphs that I have for you, in the ones that the DNR does, they consistently go to that level, you know, and so that ordinary high water might be too restrictive on some of these lakes. Green Lake, though, we set the wake restriction level at 1157.5. The ordinary high water level is 1158.2. So we had really high water out in Green Lake this year. and the ordinary high water level is actually about 0.6 lower than or above. The ordinary high water is 0.6 lower than the highest we've recorded out there this year. So I feel like that ordinary high water level was too high to use as the wake restriction, so we backed it down to, 1175.5. Again, we shot for either whole numbers or 0.5, I guess, but
You mean 1157.5?
1157.5, yep, excuse me, sorry.
All right. Are you open for questions?
Yes.
All righty, any questions for Austin? Commissioner Berg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So how does, are you going to get into the mechanics of it later then? How does this work? So we get different rainfalls in different parts of the county. So let's say it's Green Lake area again or whatever. Then it'd be just specific for Green Lake. And then who monitors that and reports that to the county, or what person from the county monitors that and say, hey, it's at this level? And then does it automatically kick in then? It won't take any board action as long as we accept this, correct?
Correct, and having an ordinance, and this was kind of early discussions with the county sheriff that I really appreciated, having an ordinance like this it spurs then just to go into effect. It doesn't have to go back to county board for approval, because the ordinance is already approved by the county board, then it just automatically goes into effect. The DNR is constantly monitoring those levels, and so we would go off that and, in coordination with Austin, probably notify me and maybe go check, and then we would probably do some sort of notification to the public through social media, things like lake associations, things like that. And so that was probably that's where we feel this ordinance is the best path forward to make sure that this is a seamless process. And like I said, counties that have this ordinance, it's a very smooth process, things like that. And like you were saying too, Commissioner Berg, so if we get more water on the south end of the county, if Big Candy is at 11.04 and Green Lake, Norway, all of those water levels aren't to that elevation level, it still goes into effect for Big Candy, not maybe the others.
Thank you.
Because they are still listed as the designated lakes in the ordinance. So that's where I brought up earlier, if we want to bring in Lake Andrew, Lake Florida, Elkhorn, how do we decipher some of that? Do you feel a certain way on any of that? And so we could work on getting some of those numbers as well.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Just quickly follow up. And you mentioned you'd like to hear from the lake associations, and I would like that too. I think of Eagle Lake, but even Foot Lake or Wilmer Lake too. I know there's not that much skiing, but there's some low properties there and a lot of boating, a lot of fishing on some of that. So it'd be interesting to hear back from the associations how they feel.
Sounds good, we can do that.
Commissioner Imdek?
Thank you. So it doesn't appear like you could use a % over ordinary high water mark, does it? Which would be nice if it applied to all the lakes, so you wouldn't have to monitor.
Right, yeah, it all, it depends on the elevation of the area. Some lakes, you're 2 feet above and you're flooding cabins already, you know what I mean? Other lakes, it's a little bit different, each one's different, so. Unfortunately, we'd have to probably keep each one separate.
Which creates a lot more work to the point of Commissioner Berg and where the rainfall is happening. But I'm looking at the Green Lake one, and so there is the ordinary high water mark is 1157, or the wake restriction level would be set at 1157.5, which is, I think I heard you say it is the ordinary high water mark.
No, the ordinary high water mark for Green Lake is 1158.2.
1158.2, okay. And so the highs this year, so there's kind of a lot of difference between, if you move the line up to 1158, you'd eliminate a lot of restrictions.
Sure, yeah,
And that is the most highly recreational lake
sure,
in the county.
yep,
And you also could have an opportunity there to mitigate that with distance from shore, which I think is way, way too close, so given the size of the watercraft that are on that lake.
sure. Okay, yeah, that would be one we could look into, raising that wake restriction level up closer to the ordinary high water level.
Anyone else with any questions for Austin, for Kelsey? Commissioner Dale Anderson.
I think that it's great that you guys are looking into this and trying to figure it out, but I do feel it maybe is important to do it for all the lakes. I have had a couple calls on Lake Florida and people are concerned about all the lakes, I guess, but, the other thing is, you know, it's not only the boats that cause these problems, so, I mean, if we have a big wind event, we're causing problems too. So I think it's to find that happy medium and yet have respect for landowners and respect for people trying to use them is a big thing. So thanks for the hard work, because I know this isn't gonna be simple.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson and then Commissioner Imdek.
So my question would be, if we don't add in other lakes now, and then we pass the ordinance, if we want to put in lakes later after the ordinance is passed, do we have to go through this process again, or do we?
Yeah. My understanding is that,
Okay, so we're better to add a few right now.
right, we're probably better off to add all of them now so that we don't have to open the ordinance and issue the public comment, public hearing and all of that. And so that's where I maybe, to be honest, I probably jumped the gun on like, okay, but I think Austin and I were getting our schedules in line, and so this would be the public hearing, but, you know, thinking about it now more when it's in draft form, we are in no rush. And so I wanted to communicate and let you guys know that we're not in a rush, and we'd rather take our time and get through this, listen to the constituents, get all of the lakes listed if needed in there, and get those water levels, and assure that we have a solid ordinance for the county board to approve.
Yeah, but this is more of our first public look at it anyway, so we
Right, yep,
very preliminary.
yep.
Commissioner Imdek.
Thank you. And whoever in the room can answer this question, how many named lakes do we have in Kansas County? We got about 320, but they're not all named.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't answer that. We can get you that number for
But I
sure.
mean, that, you could blanket it with an all named lakes
Right.
kind of a thing. The other comment is, the distance from shore, there's a huge impact on the size of the boat. That is the distance from shore. So a 150 horse pontoon, 150 feet from shore is gonna have way more impact than a 30 horse, tiller run boat. So could we create a zone that says of a certain size, it has to be this distance versus, or is that too complex?
I think that would, as far as changing sizes for boats, and I think that would get too complicated.
But there's a big difference. I've sat on the lake and saw some of these craft go through at even 20 miles an hour, and it was really tossing
Sure.
the docks.
To answer two of your comments, I don't believe we can just put in like an encompassing, all incorporated named lakes. I think they do have to be listed out within the ordinance from what I recall from the conversation I had with the DNR. And also, I don't know if we're able to put in those zones. I think it has to be based off 150, 300, 600 feet for all types of boats. I don't know if we can classify that language. I'm looking at the sheriff and he's shaking his head no, so I don't think we can. But that is something that we can double check and look into as well.
And just a follow-up comment, I agree 100% with Commissioner Berg, and I think the administrator and I have talked about it before, is that clearly would like the feedback of lake associations, but understanding that we have to balance lake associations' desires with the second biggest economy in our second biggest industry in Kansas County and tourism, and the impact visitors have to our economy in Kansas County.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Berg.
Do you-
Thank you,
Yeah, and
Mr.
if
Chair.
it's okay, if the county sheriff can come up and he can probably clarify
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Indike's question a little bit.
While he's on his way up there, just a quick comment. I was just going to say that we should probably name the lakes. There's so many lakes,
Yes.
and we don't want to be monitoring all those.
Yep, and
where
we
there's
can,
no- so
yep,
you're
we
right
can do
on.
that.
Sheriff,
Commissioners,
good morning.
good morning. Eric Tollefson, Kansas County Sheriff. Just to clarify some of Commissioner Imdek's comments. So, yeah, when it comes to, you can pass ordinances that regulate horsepower on lakes, but then it's just strictly to the horsepower that's allowed to operate. This ordinance is just strictly to creating the wake. So it's, whether or not it's a small fishing boat or a large wake setter, a wake is a wake. And so when that restriction is on, the wake can't be created. So I guess if that helps. But yeah, you can limit horsepower size because a lot of our northern lakes, like up in Cook County, have like a 25 horsepower limit on the lake. But that has nothing to do with wake, it has to do with horsepower. So anyway. The
Hard to
DNR is
buy a boat with 25 horsepower anymore.
I know, but the DNR is pretty specific as to how this ordinance has to be drafted. The model that they have in place has to be adhered to. You can deviate or be specific. You can have different distances from shores for each lake, but the distances that they want you to use are 150, 300, or 600 feet. So I mean, in some cases, you may have a lake that's, like take North Long Lake, for instance, it's pretty narrow in a lot of spots. I mean, if you do a 600-foot from shore ordinance, you might not be able to, it'd cover the whole from one shore to the next, right? So you can get specific as to each lake, what distance from shore you want to be. So, but anyway.
Sheriff Tolleson, thank you. Any further questions for our presenters? I appreciate that everybody involved wants to eliminate the gray areas of responsibility, and I think this is a great first step towards putting a system in place for what are probably sadly going to be more and more frequent rain and high water events as we move through the first half of this century. So, all right, anybody with anything else? All right, then that item is for information only, and
And I was gonna say, Mr. Chair, if you want to take the ORAC grant presentation prior to the budget when they're all here and ready to go, if that's okay? If you would want to move that around if they're ready?
let's do that.
Okay.
That's a great suggestion, thank you. At this time, we'll go to the nominally scheduled 10:05 a.m., the ORAC grant update, and we'll have that team present. Please introduce yourself and who you're with, and for the record, and welcome.
Hello. I want to thank you guys for this time. My name's Irvin Miller.
And my name is Jared O'Neill.
We're part of the ARIS unit that was founded under the ORAC grant. The ORAC stands for Opioid Epidemic Response Advisory Council. This was approved in 2023. The goals of this is to enhance staff capacity in 2 areas to curb and reform justice involvement for Candido High residents impacted by opioid use. The purpose is to provide a trauma-informed early engagement model for opioid use disorder, mental health, and justice involvement. Overall vision is a safer, healthier Candido High through coordinated response efforts. And ARIS, if I haven't mentioned, stands for Alternative Response Intervention Specialist.
Part of ARIS is we aim to provide a response geared towards individuals with opioid use disorder, mental health, and substance use disorder. Our mission is to provide evidence-based, multidisciplinary response to individuals experiencing mental health and substance abuse crisis, with a focus on early intervention, community integration, and justice system diversion. We aim to reduce recidivism, increase public safety by embedding behavioral health expertise within probation, social services, and the public safety system. Our vision is to enhance rural justice coordination and community response to opioid misuse, mental health issues. We aim to develop a community where individuals living with mental health and substance use disorders are met with support, where the public systems work together to promote recovery, equity, and safety, and where incarceration is not the only option left for members of our county.
Our goals is to reduce recidivism and incarceration rates of justice-involved individuals with chemical dependency and mental health needs. Delivery culturally responsive Department of Corrections approved evidence-based cognitive interventions to individuals during incarceration or while under supervision. Provide for early engagement with persons struggling with substance use and mental health needs who are having frequent contacts with law enforcement, social services intake, and community corrections. To gain and maintain a well-functioning community-based system of responses for substance use and mental health needs. Short-term goals include center around coordinated efforts to reduce the impact of substance use and mental health-related issues across sectors in Kaneohe County, including law enforcement, community corrections, and the judicial system. Also, health and human services. The project is designed to provide effective support for individuals affected by these challenges. Long-term goals projects to aim to reduce the overall impact of substance use and mental health-related issues on the county and improve the community's response practices. Through implementing these activities and goals, we seek to produce key recommendations for systems improvements that address substance abuse, use, and mental health-related challenges and promote the well-being of the community in Kaneohe County. The REC grant funding laid a crucial foundation by supporting localized research and identifying specific community needs, while also drawing on promising models established across Minnesota. This investment created 2 dedicated ARIS positions and the development of a multidisciplinary framework to better serve individuals at risk. Despite these progress, significant service gaps remain, particularly across our rural landscape. Individuals and families impacted by OUD, opioid use disorder, and behavioral health crisis often continue to face fragmented, delayed, or inadequate care. These challenges are especially acute for those with frequent contact with law enforcement or involvement in the community legal system. Through an expanding staffing, continued systems alignment, and a deepening commitment to early and coordinated intervention, Kaneohe County is working to ensure more equitable, responsive, and effective care for its most vulnerable residents.
Our goal is to reduce, provide, and promote. As alternative response intervention specialists, my colleague and I serve different roles. Irvin through community corrections and myself through the Health and Human Services Department. While Urban is focused on implementing evidence-based treatment programs for substance abuse, mental health disorders within community corrections, it's also identifying individuals with chemical dependency, mental health, and criminogenic needs through screening assessments during their intake process. He assesses and develops a care plan to address the criminogenic needs of participants and provide programming across multiple areas with justice-involved individuals. He also provides comprehensive discharge planning and ensures continuity of care and support after release. Also is working to establish post-release follow-up programs to monitor progress and provide support in the community for justice-involved individuals. With my role on the Health and Human Services side, we're looking to collaborate with law enforcement agencies, social services, and community corrections to identify individuals with frequent contacts related to substance use. Implement a community-based outreach programs, engage and connect with these individuals. Develop teams to respond to individual crisis and divert them to appropriate services. Conduct needs assessments and to identify the gaps and make improvements in our current community-based system. We also look to develop and implement coordinated and integrated system of care for individuals with substance abuse and mental health. And we are establishing communication and referral protocols with various service providers to ensure seamless transitions and a continuity of care. As ARIS team members, the proposed next phase of our project centers around the continued staffing and coordination of our 2 positions. We view these positions as the backbone of Kandiyohi County's early engagement model, which prioritizes individuals at high risk of incarceration, crisis escalation, or repeated emergency service use. The ARIS team proactively identifies individuals in need and through coordinated referrals, through law enforcement, probation, and social services. We deliver personalized case planning, trauma-informed engagement, and linkage to critical supports, including substance abuse treatment and mental health services, housing, employment, and crisis stabilization. This project goal is to interrupt cycles of harm and promote stability through early, individualized, and coordinated care.
So the method for us to attain this, we have a two-prong approach. We gather information from various sources, internal sources, external community referrals, and ICRs. ICRs are incident reports that we gather on a daily basis. What we do is we search the logs. We try to identify any ones that are labeled mental health or substance use. We then obtain those names. We sort through whether they're justice involved or not. If they're justice involved, then I'll take over. If it's not justice involved, it'll go to Jared. How do we determine that? Justice involved is simply that people who have been incarcerated on supervision or had prior contacts. Why we do this is kind of a safety issue, and I have some familiarity with the criminal justice system. The non-law enforcement or justice informed is pretty much just that. It's people that never been in contact with law enforcement or been on calls, I say.
We'll reach out to community members, whether they're in crisis or they're suffering with addiction. Under my prong, it's a voluntary basis, so I work to develop relationships, establish rapport, and build on that trust with individuals to help them engage in services.
Yeah. Now, the foundation early impact of this grant, obviously we established 2 ARIS roles. We developed a multidisciplinary response framework program. We did this by researching other similar plans throughout the state. The outcomes to date, data suggests that we have over 350 individuals served, a 40% reduction in repeated 911 calls for program participants, and 25% increase in treatment engagement. Our active operations include staffing for early engagement, key referral sources like law enforcement, probation, social services, mobile crisis, and emergency services. Our core functions is early engagement and outreach, weekly multi-system coordination from crisis teams, health and human services, community corrections, and law enforcement. We've established a jail cognitive behavior therapy group within the jail. It's weekly on Wednesdays, it's voluntary. And we go over criminogenic behaviors and we try to walk through them and have them have self-awareness. We also have treatment court consultation.
Through ARS and over the past year, we've been working diligently to strengthen our relationships with community partners and agencies. We've established working relationships within the confines of ARIS with United Community Action Partnerships, the mobile crisis team through Woodland Centers. In addition to that, we participate weekly in multidisciplinary interagency meetings. Twice a week, we will screen with our crisis provider to ensure that we are being diligent, and we're looking for individuals that are not currently engaged in services. And our goal is not to duplicate those services if those individuals are already receiving services. On a monthly basis, we draw community partners to the table, and for our mental health partners meeting, where we have experts in their field come from Centric Care, Woodland Centers, different agencies throughout the county. And one of our latest endeavors, through Urban's department, they've established a coffee connection that aims to provide support to individuals in recovery. And Urban will facilitate this connection and bring community members to the table to help build that wraparound approach for individuals struggling with substance use. We are entering the phases of measuring our success. We're entering into an evaluation process with Dr. Patricia Griffin, who has extensive experience in co-responder models, cross-system evaluation among law enforcement, human services, public health, and probation and correctional agencies. And Dr. Griffin and her colleague are collecting the data that we've gathered since starting in this role, and putting that data together to see the evidence-based practices, the best practices, and the impact we're having on the greater communities of Candiotine County. One thing that we brought to share is this was secured through our grant funding. And it's a survival backpack with food, Narcan, blankets, crank radio, and in collaboration with our mobile crisis, our UCAP street outreach and Lutheran Social Services, we aim to get these bags to our transient population. Urban and I have had a lot of unique experience in encountering individuals in many different circumstances, whether they're dealing with a mental health crisis, they're impoverished and homeless. We're identifying those needs of that gap population within our county. And we're excited to get those individuals that are struggling with some additional resources and partnering with other agencies in the county. Is there any questions?
Just a couple of questions that I'm going to lead off with, and then I'm sure there will be others. So where does this program primarily reside? Is it primarily a correction/law enforcement-based program? Are you seeing a preponderance of the number of clients from that side of that two-pronged approach?
From the few months that we've had to look back on, I mean, we work as 50-50. As far as the numbers, I don't have them with me, but I know personally my engagement, I've had over about 110. So it sounds like he may have more contact with individuals, but as far as the justice involved, maybe they have a little bit more.
And I think we're dealing with two different populations. And one is an identified population already within our legal system. And the other is the community members that may be struggling with, as we mentioned, substance use or mental health disorders, but aren't familiar with our area services or aren't at that point where they're reaching out for that help. So my engagement has likewise been since January over 100 individuals as well. So I think it works nicely for both departments it's not sitting in one particular department right now. We have our two-pronged approach.
And sometimes it will bounce from one to the other. It'll start off as non-justice. We'll try to intervene and try to curb that, get them back to a baseline. But sometimes they'll get arrested, and then they become in my realm. So it's that coordination, because even when they get released, once they get out of jail, we've seen kind of a pattern where the services aren't there. So we need to kind of help them along. Either they don't have it or they don't know where to go. So that's where I go to him for the expertise with the human services.
Yeah, and the reason I'm asking the question is that I want to make sure that we aren't losing sight of the needs out in the non-justice involved areas of the community. That's potentially even a larger population than what you have with the justice involved. So I love the backpack idea. Absolutely tremendous, because there are so many folks right now that are falling through the cracks today due to SUD or mental illness, and I really appreciate that early work. And my understanding is that your positions are funded by the ORAC grant, and so there's no direct levy impact.
Yes.
Outstanding. Start with Commissioner Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First off, it sounds like a great program, and you are making progress with it, sounds, and making a difference. And it's one more way to fill some gaps we have in all these mental health services and chemical dependency services needed out there. And I just want to add that some of the clients, I'm sure, are even dual diagnosis that you're dealing with. And the coordination, am I just trying to get a better picture of it? Generally speaking, when on the human service side, the human services probably wouldn't have a case open on these people, could be familiar or not, depends. And you could maybe in some situations end up hooking in there with their case management services as well, right? And my other question is it sounds like that's where you get your different referrals from. You got into that. But how do you, where you say, graduate somebody or discharge them from your services?
From my end, you're absolutely right, Commissioner Berg, as far as the, I'm looking at a population that isn't engaged or may not meet the criteria of specific services that are already in place for individuals, whether that be within Health and Human Services, adult mental health, or they may not be at a point ready to engage in substance use treatment. Where I don't have to meet a criteria, I can engage them on a voluntary level, build that relationship. And as far as the timelines, we're in the process of establishing more definitive timeframes. What we are seeing is that our goal is stabilization within that moment of that individual's crisis period. As humans, there is no definitive. That may be a month for somebody, that may be 4 or 5 months for somebody else. There's individuals within our county where I've been engaged with for a number of months, close to a year. But I will be that continual support to walk by their side. I may step out for a period of time, but they have that additional support and that resource to come back to. And then we pick up where we left off and we address the new crisis that they're dealing with.
May I just follow up with the comment? I kind of expected that, and you mentioned a coffee group or something, and I think people need some of the support like that ongoing. So some people will be around for a long time, but I like the idea of group work. I think that's really a great thing, and it's kind of hard to accomplish nowadays with HIPAA and all that, but those type of connections are really good and support for the people out there. Good job.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson.
So my question would be, if somebody's out there that needs help or thinks they need help, who do they contact? Do they go to their doctor, or who do they call?
So we're in the process of developing different lines where we can get our information and who we are out to. We've had our local law Enforcement Sheriff's Department and Wilmer Police Department, when this grant first started, has our community outreach door hangers through ARIS to provide them with urbanized contact information. We frequently bring these with when we're out. As far as the communication we're working on that marketing of expanding who we are to the appropriate people to refer, that the rest of the community can get that information.
Okay, and so they can call somebody without, I think some people would be afraid to call, maybe because they don't want to get the justice involved part, you know? I mean, they probably realize they need help, but they don't want to, maybe end up, on the justice side of it. So
And,
is there a concern for them that, if they call, that it won't end up on that end, or, I mean?
I think when we work collaboratively in situations, it's, for any, not the smallest individual, and, any presence of a stranger can be, intimidating, and it's really about that approach, and building that rapport with, and establishing trust. And we're very open to lead that the services are voluntary. At any time, you can just say, I'm done with this. There is that concern, but we work to navigate around that, just to establish who we are. We're outside of these other systems.
Yeah, we've had discussions with couples that come up and ask, what's going on. So we try to explain that it's community outreach, no different than the COPS program and law enforcement, no different than a police officer going to a scene. Policy requires me to wear a vest. But again, we try to reiterate that we're just there for community outreach. But I could see your concern.
Commissioner Emdek and then Administrator Baker.
Thank you. And you started this, was it around the first of the year?
So I was hired late January. We got really going in March.
Okay.
So from that short amount of time, it started slowly, but now we're getting to a point where I think the other week we had 16 in 1 week that we have to research and dig deeper and find out, is there substance abuse, is there mental health, to establish that. So yeah, things are picking up.
And the other question was, included substance abuse, but I didn't hear you say alcohol. I think you would have way too many clients if you included, is alcohol not included in this?
It's included, yeah. It's any substance abuse disorder. We try to help everyone that's in need, so.
Our emphasis is on opioid.
Yeah.
As that opioid use, fentanyl, the harder things in, and we've looked at, in collaboration with having an opioid spike response through, that we were working on within our Department of Public Health to help identify that population as well.
Administrator Baker.
Maybe some comments that you can explain further as your experience. You talked a little bit about that we're not duplicating services, and that is not our intent. And so you are hand in hand with Woodland Centers and Mobile Crisis. And so I just really want to make sure that the board and the public and our other partner agencies understand we're not here to take over your services. We're here to provide another umbrella or another angle from already what is provided and another approach to it, kind of what you talked about. So if you want to explain a little bit of that. And then the other point I thought that would be just good for the board to hear and the public is, what's an impact story? You're walking me through the relationship that you have with law enforcement, or, can you talk about a situation that you both have worked together to provide better services for this individual and how you worked with law enforcement and kind of give that whole picture?
I'm a firm believer in our mission to not duplicate services from the standpoint of not only can it exhaust system resources, but it is also confusing for the individuals that we're engaged with. If they have multiple different people showing up and engaging with them, that leads to sometimes a stigma and a lack of trust that I'm having an issue here, all these people are around me now. So we try to vet and work with, as I mentioned, our mobile crisis unit. If law enforcement is dispatching them to a crisis or they're engaged with individuals, we're not gonna duplicate that service and follow up with them. We're gonna make sure they haven't, and then we collaborate. Maybe we'll take our approach to this. Sometimes they've had previous experience, but it's starting to develop into a really good working relationship. We're can't thank law enforcement enough for that relationship and looking at alternative ways to respond when law enforcement as first responders are running into the substance use and the mental health, and allowing the opportunity to engage with those individuals and try different approaches.
As far as an example, we had a male subject through ICRs. We identified it first, started through Human Services. We made contact several times to try to talk him to getting services, but it was strictly voluntary at that time. So I think about on a weekly basis, we just check on. We got him food once, I believe. And our goal, again, was to let him know that, look, there's somebody here that cares about you. You can reach out to us if you need it. And the goal was hopefully for him to stop calling 911 because he kept thinking someone was entering into his home. He's a dual diagnosis. So instead of contacting 911, he started to contact Jared. So that's kind of goal number one, right? Reducing that load to law enforcement. Unfortunately, he did get arrested, but I made contact with him and maintained contact under that pretrial supervision. And he just recently, last week, called and visited me here and thanked me for everything like that. So it's kind of it's the rapport that we're building and that trust, because in this community, the trust is everything. They have a lot of shame due to their substance abuse, and a lot of family members have turned away from them. So it's going to be a gradual kind of, I guess, play out, if that answers your question.
Just going back to my comment before, if I may, Mr. Chair. Yes, you're filling a gap in needed services.
We're trying.
Yeah, and naturally, in certain situations, it's really good if there's a slight overlap, in this whole process. And that's going to happen. That's how it works. So no, it sounds like a good program.
Commissioner Imdag.
Yeah, and I'd just like to thank you too for the work, but also a little clarification for those wondering what these ORIC dollars are. They're basically a parallel resource to the opiate settlement and kind of targeted to those counties that, for whatever reason, fell a little short in the opiate settlement equity. And so but it came as a result of the opiate settlement.
That is correct.
All right. Any last questions? Gentlemen, thank you so much, and look forward to having you back in the future and hearing more about the success of this program.
Thank you for your time.
We'll take a 5-minute recess. The Board of Commissioners is back from recess, and at this time, we will have a 2026 budget update from Administrator Baker. Kelsey, go ahead.
Yep, Kelsey Baker again, Candioi County Administrator. As the chair stated, we will just be reviewing the 2026 budget. Since our previous meeting for the budget work session, Karen Anderson, our Chief Financial Officer, and myself reviewed the budget, again, reviewed the departments and where they're coming in at, and made some slight adjustments. As you can see, the two budget changes is that we did increase the software licensing in the technology after the work session and some of the feedback, and then we are utilizing the jail revenue reserves a little bit more to help offset. And so by doing that, we came up with a 7.1% levy. We're not utilizing more of our landfill reserves, which we typically do in the past, but we did just use the reserves to purchase part of that property, and so we wanted to ensure that we're not overspending in that area. The number one thing I think we need to, I would like the board to keep in mind when coming in at the 7.1% and not overutilizing our reserves is that we do receive interest income off the amount of reserves that we do have. With our 2023 audited numbers, we had 8.5 months of coverage. We used reserves in 2024, and so we're waiting. Our audit is getting finalized, and you'll be hearing the final audit numbers this fall. But we don't have those months, unaudited months of coverage numbers yet for 2024. So even though we have healthy reserves, we want to kind of find that balance in our philosophy on how we want to work the reserves in. The other thing I think we need to keep in mind is the future building projects. If we, the board has been exposed to looking at some of those projects, what does that look like? We did a space analysis, we've created a building committee, and what do those projects look like moving forward? And that also plays into our bond ratings. We have very healthy reserves now, and that helps with our bond ratings that we get. Utilizing our reserves, like I said, we don't want to use all of them, and then we do get to a point where we're sitting with 3.5 months of coverage. That happens really quickly. That can happen overnight. And so by utilizing a small amount each year to help offset the overall budget is the healthy way to do things. We just don't want to go from 0 to 100. So with the reserves that we have, we still want to be aware of how much we're using each year. And then preparing for unforeseen changes. We can't prevent or predict what the federal or state government is going to do, but if we can keep the cadence moving at a comfortable pace for us with the reserves being used, helps the finance and myself team feel a little bit more easier about when our audits come along, and if we do have a big gap or a jump in funding, that we have those reserves to make us through. Prime example is the landfill property. We have healthy landfill reserves. That gave us that tool to purchase that property for the landfill and to be able to keep moving that cadence and our services forward. Also included, so a couple things today was the quasi-government numbers. Those are the numbers that are inputted in the budget. And like I said, those are the boards that you sit on. And so these are the numbers that are going to, unless I hear back, I haven't heard from anyone since the budget work session. And so if those quasi-government requests are appropriate and you feel comfortable, those will go into the 2026 budget as well. The cash balance and investments is in there as of June 30th, 2025. And then the net comparisons for each department. And mainly the biggest driver for the net comparisons is the payroll that make those changes, COLA, step increases, things like that. And so I really wanted to see and gauge the board on where they're coming in at, or where you're coming in at regarding the 7.1% preliminary levy and the previous 8% that was addressed at the budget work session in August. Like I said, our next step is that we will have if I need to do an update on the 16th, I will do so. We will be missing 2 commissioners, but then the board approved the special board meeting for Tuesday, September 23rd at 9 a.m. And that will be specifically a special meeting to discuss and approve the 2026 preliminary levy. So any other questions on the 7.1? What are your thoughts coming in at? Do you feel comfortable? I feel comfortable at the 7.1. However, if the board felt more strongly towards the 8 for preliminary, we can adjust those numbers as well. But I do feel that a 7.1 coming in for preliminary is doable.
Kelsey, kind of to that point, because I think we have a reasonable handle on what range that 2026 is going to come into. The real issue here is the out years, 27, 28, 29, 30. There's no way that we can measure fully any of the state or federal potential impacts that are some still on the table and some probably haven't even been thought of yet. And so I was personally fine with coming in for now at the 8%. And then we make that determination in December when we finalize the levy. I have every confidence that we're going to come in at that 7.1 or potentially even lower. But I would like us to give ourselves that little bit of wiggle room between now and finalizing the levy in December. And that's just my 2 cents worth. Anyone else? Commissioner Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, first off, thank you. I know you've been working on this a lot. And we put you in a tough spot. You're trying to make things work with the management team. You're trying to make things work with the board and the taxpayer, and it's a real struggle. I know we talked last time, and I appreciate what you looked at so far. I was supporting do what you can get to get it down to 5%, because we don't know what's coming forward. And what concerns me is, when you have a cushion, that sounds good, but we're creating a cushion with a levy, and that cushion is there for the rest of the time. I never remember that we ever lowered the levy. So yes, we need a cushion now, and that's what's happening. And we have to be really careful going forward. And there's a little bit more to get into on this whole thing too. Even next year, as we talk about negotiations with the unions and the staff and cost of living increases and so forth, I think that's going to be really tough. We are just coming, and when you talk about cushion, we just gave a 3% raise for 3 years to staff, and that's good. I'm glad we can help them out, but that goes on forever. And it's been 2 years since we started, and we're at the 9% additional of levy that we put on there. So we have to really look at our salaries and how we fit in, and we go forward. So I just really kind of lay some groundwork that it's going to be, I think, tougher negotiations coming up on that. And I think staff will understand all the things we're having to deal with as well. Other than that, I think I'll still try to meet with you, and we still got a major meeting, and so we can make those adjustments if we have to make some more. So appreciate what you're doing. I hope you can put another set of eyes on this, and I know you will between now and then if we can get it down further. That's my personal opinion, but I just think we just can't keep this levy high. I've been hearing from people paying the taxes that's good. You're doing good work, though. Keep going. Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I totally understand where you're coming from. However, though, that's a twofold concern, because then if we do continue, if something does happen, and we can't predict the future, and we have to prepare for what is right now, and looking into the mandated versus non-mandated services isn't just, I'm going to go online and get a list. That is an extensive list. I know DHS is working on that right now. Caroline and her team are working on that right now. It's not just a quick list you can pull together. And it's say, you want to keep our roads, but like just the presentation we had today, we need to there's also a need for filling those gap services. But if we cushion too much and something does happen in 27 and 28 and 29, like we saw in the 2006, 7, 8, 9 era, and we have been depleting those reserves, that doesn't do us any good either. And so it's a little bit of a twofold, and so I am trying to find that balancing, and I am trying to work to the best of my ability with departments. There are some FTEs that were removed. There are some that are maybe in question right now if we are going to follow through with that plan. Specifically in Health and Human Services, and, you know, we looked at Environmental Services FTE, we looked at Community Corrections, and so it is a balancing act, and it's finding that balance moving forward to be able to continue our services. We might have to work differently. And that's what I always say to everybody. That's county government. All department heads, we're working. We have to be during this time. And I think that is something important that we want to, I, as the administrator, want to try fulfill, is that we all have to be working in times like this because we all have to look at our jobs differently. And we, at the end of the day, we have to continue those services, and that is our main job as public servants. And so I think, to answer your question, sorry, in a roundabout way, I am looking at that. I am taking in your concern wholeheartedly. It's just navigating that with Karen Anderson and how we navigate that moving forward.
And just to clarify, when you're talking about cutting FTEs, these are not employees that have been cut from the roster. These are FTEs that have been previously authorized for those departments, but are currently unfilled positions, and those are simply not being budgeted for this time around, correct?
Correct.
Commissioner Dale Anderson.
Well, Kelsey, thanks for the hard work you guys have done on this. I mean, it's a lot of work, and I probably didn't understand it for the first couple of years, so the more you get into it, the more you kind of understand it. But I guess if you want our personal opinion, I would agree with Steve to a certain degree that we should just, you know, maybe stay with that 8% for right now. We can always put it down to wherever we want to at December, but I really have concerns with the legislature, what they're gonna do and what our federal parts are gonna come back at. So I just don't want to get caught with us getting into November and then we finding out there's some big cuts coming and we can't handle that because we've already set the cap on it. So that's really where I go. I'm hoping that we can get it down in December and make it lower, but if we get ourselves caught where we get some big thing coming from the legislature, then we're gonna be in trouble. But I guess my other 2 cents on this is I'm really concerned and really would like to not go too low on this because I think we do have some really big needs in buildings and we really need to look at that. And I'm hoping we can do the same thing we did with that landfill land, maybe use them reserves up for that kind of a project if we do get to that point, whenever that is. But if we get too low on them now, then we have nothing to have that for them kind of big purchases that we might have coming in the future.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson.
Yeah, thanks. So my question is about the reserves. We're at 8.5 months now, and you've probably answered this before, I just can't remember. How has that changed over, say, like the last 4 or 5 years? Has it gone from 6 months to 8.5? Are we growing it every year, or is it declining?
Nope, I don't have that chart in front of me. It is in our audit book on how our months of coverage have increased. But over the last 4 to 5 years, would be probably since 2019, our months of coverage have increased due to getting some federal dollars to help offset some of our normal budget costs, levy costs. And so our reserves have increased slightly, but I can't tell you what they were probably 5 years ago. And I would say we were at that 8.5 months for the 2023 audited numbers. We're probably a little bit lower in that for 2024, but I would say we're not lower than 7.5 months.
Commissioner Imdek.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we have a really good start. The administrator and I had a nice visit, brief, but nice visit before the meeting about that it is a good start to see that we went from 8 down to 7.6. But I would like to see us go another close to 1% more in terms of lowering it. As far as the unknowns are concerned, I only see one thing that is going to kick in before the end of 2026. Remember, this is a 2026 budget, not a 2027 budget. And that would be like in December of 2026. So as far as the unknowns, I say we cross that bridge when we get to it because, and we will make the adjustments then. I was visiting with a farmer client last week or on the weekend, who said first of all, soybean guys, the corn guys are not making any money. Cattle guys are doing great. The sugar beet guys found out that they're gonna get a huge cut in the amount of their payment. And some of them are getting crappy crops this year, just to be blunt. I think this is a good year and those of us in business, we don't know how the tariffs are gonna be affecting us and paid family leave which is in 2026, and earn sick and save time. So I think this is a time to be cautious rather than a little aggressive in terms of our budget increase or our levy increase. The big unknown for me is what that reserve balance is. Commissioner Dwayne Anderson says we tend to be trending upwards. Even if all we do is tread water for the next couple of years, that would be a savings in our levy. And so I think at 8.5 months, if we maintain it at 8.5 months, we're gonna be better off than most counties in the state of Minnesota. So I have some concerns, not only in what we're gonna add, but also some of the areas in which we're cutting. But again, I wanna wait until I get some answers that will help me make a decision.
Commissioner Berg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to go back to visit the 8.5 or 7.5 years of reserves, that's really good. And that's where our cushion should be. And that is our cushion. I don't think we should levy for a cushion. We got a reserves for that. And also, I'm not saying we should be using up all our reserves to keep the levy down. I think we have to look at, what other revenue besides this can we look at, or what spending can we cut back, or how can we stagger new hires? How can we, positions, how do we deal with those? How is there some, say in the courthouse, do we need to remodel a bathroom this year? And if that's on the levy, that type of thing, and just dig even in deeper. There's so many other options. I think we can keep tweaking it a little bit more. And I don't want us to use up reserves per se, but that's what they're there for too. And if it should be on the levy, it should be on the levy. So we have a salary increase, it's got to be on the levy, the type of thing.
And to answer your question too, Commissioner Berg, we do that creatively all the time.
I know you do.
With
I know you
figuring,
do.
and that's kind of,
But just
that unwritten
be-
tool that we
be
use,
more
and that's.
brutal, I'm saying, yeah.
And that might be sometimes that, maybe if we're having some of these budget discussions, Andy and I will say, or building discussions, Andy Thorson, our facilities director, and I will say, well, we can hold on that. There might be a position though that does need to be refilled immediately, and we need to get moving on it because of the vacancy levels. I think the PFML, that is a big discussion. I just sent Katie an email this morning that I would like her to prepare a presentation to come to the board and explain that, because when you have staff that could be out 20 weeks and say you have 2 in CP as social workers, that hits differently. Or if you have 2 within any department, that will hit differently. And so some of those concerns coming up we will be able to mitigate. But I think the reserve question is that big discussion, and I think hearing all of your feedback, I appreciate that, and I will always take another look at it and kind of go through some of the options of what we have. And see how we can tweak it a little bit more before the 23rd. And absolutely, if you do have any more questions or would like some more follow-up, please email, call, stop in, and we can discuss some of that. And I'll have everything ready to have the preliminary levy approved at the 23rd meeting.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, between now and that meeting, make sure that you get in there and get your questions asked and answered ahead of time so that we can have as productive a discussion as possible when we have to actually decide on that preliminary number. So I know it's a great help to you to hear everybody here today, and if you have other concerns, make sure that you get time with Kelsey between now and 3 weeks from now. Commissioner Imdak.
It's helpful for me to hear your guys' questions too. So that's the downside to going in one-on-one and having these conversations is we don't, your question or comment may trigger a question or comment for me. So I prefer the work session.
Yeah, no, and completely understandable, and your point is well met. I'm just saying, if you have very specific things, that's probably a more granular conversation to be had with the administrator and her team.
And the,
Thank you. And I
and just
think,
to remind the board, the 23rd is classified as a special meeting. So we can have a discussion and then, but there does need to be then that, the action item. And also that there cannot be anything else discussed other than the 2026 budget on that agenda. And so that will be the only item that we'll have. And so I can, like what you just said, I can kind of tee that up that we can have more of a robust discussion. And then have the action item at the end.
and this was a really good discussion today. And we could keep going, I think, if we wanted to. But thank you for this discussion, and it's good to hear what other commissioners are thinking, and that we can have a discussion back and forth about that as well. And it helps you going forward, too. So thank you, and as you get it down near 5%, that'll be really wonderful. I got the last word in. Maybe.
I'm going to say that you just did. So let's, unless somebody has something else that's really burning on this topic, let's move to the next item. This was added, the Victim Services Grant Resolution 2025-30. County Attorney Shane Baker is presenting. Shane?
Oh, nice segue coming off a budget discussion as I'm up here to ask you to accept a grant of $70,000. That's been incorporated into my office and the county's budget for this coming year. This is through a federal grant, so it's based on a fiscal October 1st through September 30th timeline. It's Resolution 2025-30 I'm asking approval of. It has two parts. One is to accept the grant. Second part is to authorize me to enter and sign the agreements and any amendments to the grant.
And Shane, this is an annual grant that we've had for a number of years now, yes?
Yes, starting since October 1st of 2017. And it's been about the same amount every year too, 70,000 per year.
All right, is there a motion to move the resolution?
So moved.
And is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion, questions? All right, pretty straightforward. On Resolution 2025-30, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Shane, thank you. And we have the one item that we pulled from the consent agenda. This is the approval of the liquor license application. And Commissioner Berg, you had a specific question on this, yes?
And I do
Or-
have the answer for that.
Oh, you do have an answer?
Yep, so it's not the place of business, it's the place that it was signed. So it was signed in Wilmer, the liquor license, and so that's why it would be.
I think
I'm sorry, Roger. had
No,
that,
it's Roger's question and it wouldn't have an impact on
Right.
Then I would move on the application for the Old Mill Orchard and Tasting Room liquor license.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second to approve the liquor license application. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes, and we are now down to administrative updates, appointments, calendar, and committee reports. I think unless somebody has something absolutely burning in terms of committee reports, we'll dispense with that today. Administrator Baker, we just have several meetings coming up, yes? So the Association of Minnesota Counties Fall Policy Conference, and we're all scheduled to be there, September 10 through 12 at Arrowwood. And again, as the administrator noted, our special Board of Commissioners meeting on Tuesday, the 23rd, since Commissioner Imdek and I will be out of town the previous week. You'll still have that meeting to keep the lights on. And Health and Human Services work session coming up in after the first meeting in October. So does anyone have anything that they wish to bring up? Commissioner Berg.
Just a quick question that's popped in my mind. We all got an email about the Highway 23 Coalition meeting coming up. You have that on their calendar? Anybody have that? And who is it, who's going to it, if anybody?
Commissioner?
Well, our place of business is a minor sponsor, so I'll be going on behalf of the business, but it was a little confusing, because again, I didn't see on the budget, at least the latest rendition, that we budgeted for it, but for some reason, Highway 23 hasn't invoiced us, so technically, I don't know if it remembers, but we did get the invitation, and I think three people from the county are entitled to go. And it was a little confusing too. It seemed like we had to pay even if we were members, but I don't think you need to pay the $25.
Right.
for members.
Like Commissioner Imbeck said, I haven't received the invoice for Highway 23. It's a 3,000 appropriation, but I don't doubt, I was talking with Mel Odens about this, I don't doubt that the board would still pay that. And so I've left it blank, but the intent is that the board would approve the payment, or I would put it into the budget when it's only 3,000. And then like the invite, I believe Mel Odens is going. I did not plan on going, but I think it would be nice to have some board members available to also be in attendance.
I'm not on that committee. I've been to that before, so I'd just be interested if there was space, that's all.
Well, and I'm gonna use my slot from the store rather than the county slot, so that would leave 2 people in addition to Mel.
And remind me, what day is this?
October,
3rd?
sounds right.
I think it's Friday, October 3rd.
Okay.
Yes, at Roscoe, so it's not very far away.
And is that morning or afternoon?
The
11,
lunch hour, I believe, like 11 to 1:30.
11:30 to 1:30 or something like that.
I will be in Marshall that morning for finance
So maybe
committee
if-
meeting for supporting hands.
I
Or
maybe,
Dale could.
yeah, I maybe could go, yeah.
Okay. Yep, you guys take a peek at that and
It'd be us
figure
3
something
then.
out. Go ahead.
It'd be us 3 then, if you were
Well,
interested in going.
he's going for the business, so, okay, you two and Mel would be
Yeah.
free. Yep, got it,
Oh, okay,
got it.
yep, gotcha.
All right. Did anybody have anything burning that they wanted to report on today? I know everybody's been incredibly busy, but I need to tell you, having Friday through Monday to just shut off all my electronics and spend some time at home and out on the golf course was finally refreshing. This has been a busy, busy summer for the work that we do, so.
I'd echo that. And actually, I had a couple other days before that was pretty free on my calendar, so I had a nice stretch and feel rejuvenated.
All right, does anybody have anything else for the good of the order? Otherwise, then, we will adjourn the meeting of the Candiac County Board of Commissioners. Everybody have a great week.
Okay.